Hey everyone, my name is Sean, and in today's video I want to talk about creating your own pool plan and pool strategy for the Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. When I did my beginner's guide, I ended it by saying try to play, particularly if you're a free-to-play player, try to play through the game as much as you can until you hit a natural wall in terms of being able to complete content. I'm going to quickly share with you one wall that I had, one thing that I experienced, and that was when trying to do Act 3 Chapter 2. I had just pulled for Terra, and Terra was the main character of the banner, and I was really happy with my team at the time. But the other characters that I had just weren't strong enough for me in order to complete this content. And I was trying to do it with Terra, Y'shtola, and Vanille, who were synergy characters at the time, and Y'shtola was my healer, my main healer for my party. And while we were getting through it, unfortunately the challenge was just too hard. These barber bastards just kept on doing Thundaga, and I found that I was spending more time having to heal myself and not allow my characters to die, as opposed to dealing enough damage to win the fight. So then I hit a wall and I thought to myself, okay, we need to stop doing this, just do the normal mode, progress through other content, and come back to it later on. I sat down and I reflected, what do I need to do? How am I going to beat these guys, and how am I going to get through this content? And then I realized that at the time, the next banner that came out featured Bosch, who is a tank. However, unfortunately, I hadn't planned to pull for Bosch. I had planned only to pull from Terra, and I didn't have many resources to pull for him yet. So I thought, okay, balls to the wall, let's just go all in. I spent all my gems and all my tickets, and sadly, all I got were 2 EX swords for Bosch. I didn't get most of his kit at all, and I didn't get a tank that I really needed to complete this content. I was very sad about this, but it taught me a lesson and made me think, okay, we need to sit down and actually properly plan out what are the gaps in my roster, what is it that I need. So I want to share with you some resources that help me do this kind of planning and decide what things I'm going to invest in. Now, there are a lot of resources out in this community. This community is fantastic for supporting players and trying to help you decide what you should pull on, what you shouldn't pull on. And while I'm not going to talk about them all, they are out there. So what works for me might not work for you, but this is what will help me out a lot. Also, I want to say that what's really good about this game is most of the characters are viable, but if you're a free-to-play player, you have to decide at some point what you're going to pull for and what you're not going to pull for, because you can't afford to buy for everything. So, you know, it is what it is. Having your own pool plan is really helpful to do so. The first thing are visual forecasts or timelines. They're really helpful to see what characters are coming out when. So in the example of looking for a tank, I then went to Tonberry Trope, and I went down to infographics by role, and then I went to look at the tanks in the game, and I tried to think, okay, what tank might do something similar to Bosch and fulfill the role so I can beat those bosses. The next tank to come out was Galoof. If I go back to the forecast, Galoof was coming out in June, and with his LD weapon, but he isn't good enough to handle AoE style magical attacks. So the next character to come out after that was going to be Warrior of Light, and that was going to be in July. So I said, okay, I'm going to save my gems up for then, so that when Sephiroth Paladin will come out, I'm going to pull on this banner and hopefully get all of Warrior of Light kits. So now I have a decent tank. So that's one thing simple that you can do. Have a look at timelines and decide in advance what characters fulfill roles in your roster that you don't currently have. Moving on from that, I also really recommend looking at the pool plan videos of content creators. Lids87, Josephine, Black Nero, Jin Lee, Excalibur. It seems to be a very popular thing, Dystopia, a popular thing for content creators for this game to do. They like to make pool plans because it can be very informative to hear what these very experienced players are going to be spending their resources on for this game. That being said, take it with a grain of salt. What these players are choosing to pull on is based on their experience of the game, and they've probably been playing this game for a long time. They've got so many different characters, and therefore their choices is much wider than ours, whereas we are very narrowed in what we can choose from. And so just because they may say that a character is not worth pulling, it might be worth pulling for you. I'm going to give you an example of this and what I mean. If I can zoom out of this, one character I really wanted to get for the game is one of my favourite characters of all time is Garland. Now, Garlands and most events come out with a challenge quest that can earn you a BT token, and I really wanted Garland's BT weapon, so I wanted to get a token to kind of build it up in case I didn't get lucky enough to pull it. Now, most of the content creators were saying, don't pull for Freya, don't pull for Agrius, they're EX only characters, they're not worth investing into, but I did it anyway, and I managed to clear the content and get the BT token for using these 3 characters, and that was something that was worthwhile to me. I haven't used these characters since then. I know they do get reworked later in the future, so when they get their LD weapons, I will be able to just build up on what I've already started, but that was what was relevant to me, and that's what I mean. You have to kind of decide for yourself what works well for you and what's important to you in terms of clearing content. So, away from that, what I also like to do for games like this is I like to look at tier lists. Now, there's an attitude in this game by a lot of people that tier lists don't matter, or tier lists shouldn't exist, or people shouldn't make tier lists. For example, Tomboy Trope, they recommend that on their pool strategies pages, tier lists do not exist in this game for a reason. Do not fully trust should you pull, unless that person is familiar with your specific roster. That is true, and I definitely agree with that. Like I said earlier, that you need to do what's good for you, not what someone else just says is the best in the game. But in a game like this, the strength of a character comes mostly down to their longevity as opposed to necessarily how powerful or strong they are. By this, what I mean is that you could pull for a character quite early on. For example, one character I pulled for was Emperor, and I haven't really used him since his own event. And while he is quite strong, he doesn't really work well with my roster. So, if I had looked at a tier list earlier, I might have been able to see that he maybe wasn't as good as a different character, or might have been useful to a newer player like myself. One content creator that does make tier lists is Jetstringen. Jetstringen does really good tier lists. He plays the JP version of the game, and he plays the global version of the game, and he makes tier lists based on his experience on how good the characters were that were released between those 2 times, and where they have moved, whether they're still viable, or whether they've become less effective over time. Generally, you do see that with some characters, but some characters do stay strong for a long time. And so I found this very helpful to look at. And in terms of the tank example I was looking at earlier, the Luth was a very strong tank when he got his first released. Warrior Light's pretty good, and so is Gladio. And I've now built all 3 of these tanks because I didn't have enough tanks for my roster, and so this was very good to look at and say, okay, tanks are worthwhile in this game, it's worth doing so. Before I wrap up this video, I do want to make one recommendation to all new players. Whenever a Divine Summon comes out, I strongly recommend investing in the synergy characters at that time. Even if they're not a favourite, even if you say only get the main character and just slightly build up the other characters and bring them along, it's really helpful for doing Divine Summons. Divine Summons come with an ability to farm a lot of resources. So if I look at Divine Diablos, when you do the event, you can earn over 40,000 gems and over 400 tickets and 105 nuggets. But to do so, you have to run the boss again and again and again. Now, if you have no rank, no synergy, no pass, it takes you 900 runs to do. But if you're at max rank and you have one synergy character and no pass, it cuts it down to 300. So how much time you have to spend doing this event can cut down by how many synergy characters you have and the level of your rank. And I was saying in my beginner's video, you want to level your rank as soon as possible, get as high as you possibly can, because it really benefits you in many ways to do so. I do buy the Moogle Pass because the idea for me from cutting down from 150 runs to 75 runs is really valuable to me, because doing the same content again and again can get a bit boring, and especially if you're playing on a mobile device, you don't want to drain out your battery. So I find the Moogle Pass very valuable to do. But if you're going to be a free-to-play player and you're not going to buy the Moogle Pass at all, at least try and get some synergy characters, so it will cut down how long it takes for you to clear Divine Summon content. But those come out every time a Divine Summon comes out. You'll be able to see, looking at the forecast, which characters are going to be synergy characters. So we just had Divine Brothers, if I can click on that there. And so these are the characters that were synergy boosted. Nope, go back to it. There we go. These are the characters that were synergy boosted. So I got Cloud of Darkness. I also built Balthier and Raijin, and she just did it basically on her own, but we carried them through to help me get through that event faster, so it didn't take me so long. So that is my advice in terms of deciding how to pull. The only thing I would also recommend having a look at is have a look at Tom Trope's pull strategies. It gives you some advice on how to manage your gems and how to manage your tickets. Basically, if you have to get a character and you absolutely want them, you must use gems. If it's a character you don't really care about, you can use tickets for funsies because you are happy to walk away and not guaranteed to get that character's equipment. But definitely read through this. I live by this. It works so well. It's what has helped me build up so many characters in a very short amount of time. So, thank you very much for watching this video, guys. Hopefully this was helpful to some new players to the game. If you're enjoying Dissidia Final Fantasy, do let me know. And feel free to add me as a friend. I'll leave my ID somewhere. And yeah, hopefully this has helped you out. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Take care.